Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. Here in Champion in studio in Bristol, Connecticut. Skip Bayless in New York City, and Stephen A. is in New York as well. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you all?
All right.
Hey, Stephen A., you didn't get traded yesterday, did you? I was starting to get worried about that last night.
Well, of course I didn't get traded because we still have First Take. Without me, there wouldn't be First Take.
Good.
You're the patriarch.
That's true.
That's
what I wanted to hear.
I'm the ultimate sidekick.
Yeah,
I'm the ultimate sidekick.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
On the show today, guys, we have some
Thank
breaking news out of Miami on Chris Bosh. Our Brian Windhorst will join us with the latest on that. Plus, there were NBA trades, as you just heard the fellas discuss. We will talk about how playoff contenders, referring to the Heat and the Thunder, did they get better or did they get worse? Plus, the Vikings say they want Adrian Peterson back, but it appears that he's a little apprehensive. We're putting him on the couch. We'll talk about that again a little later on in the show. But on to the NBA trades, shall we? Thunder made two separate trades Thursday. That gives them 4 players: Jazz center Enes Kanter and Pistons guard DJ Augustin. In return, the team traded Reggie Jackson to the Pistons and Kendrick Perkins to the Jazz. Jackson wanted to be traded and made it clear. Kevin Durant on the trades.
You felt like everybody wanted to be here except for one guy. So it wasn't like everybody was just going crazy at shoot around. And I went to sleep and woke up and we had new players. So, it goes like that sometimes. But, we got, everybody that wants to be here is here, and we're excited about our new guys. And it hurts to see Perk leave, but, we still going to remain brothers until we're both gone. So, it was definitely a tough day, but it was a good day as well.
It was a good day, or was it? That is the question. Stephen A., did the Thunder improve with the trades?
To some degree, I think they did. I think you can make a legitimate argument that it's minimal, simply because Kendrick Perkins is a tremendous loss. You can't look at his numbers and measure his contribution by numbers. Kendrick Perkins is a very physical dude, and whether it's setting picks, whether it's rebounding, whether it's banging, he sort of helps neutralize the opposition's offense schematically, because he really throws a monkey wrench into their plans because of how physical he can be. And losing that physical edge, particularly if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder, can end up being a minus. The flip side is that you're talking about a guy in Kanter who's averaging 13 and 7, shooting 49% from the field, clearly is a better player offensively, definitely is a big enough body at 6'11", 260 plus, so he gives you some punch offensively. The combination of him with Serge Ibaka definitely makes them formidable. We like Singler, who can shoot. You like DJ Augustin, who's been around a lot of teams in the NBA but knows how to play this game and can give you some quality minutes as a backup, and by the way, be satisfied with that because he's not starving for his own franchise the way Reggie Jackson was. So all those things being considered, I definitely believe that the Thunder made out better in this trade. Losing Reggie Jackson and Kendrick Perkins obviously hurts, but you get more offense with Kanter, and in the case of Reggie Jackson, gone is a disgruntled individual who was starving to get his own team so he could put himself in position to make money, which is nothing wrong with that, by the way. I definitely think that Oklahoma City made out well here.
I do not agree with you on this one. And yet, let me say, Stephen A., and I'm sure you do agree on this point, Kevin Durant was limping again at the end of the Dallas game
last
night.
Was.
We saw him limping around in the All-Star game.
Yes, he was.
So
I'm not happy about
agree.
that.
If that persists, all these bets are off. Now let's
That's
get
right.
down to the additions and subtractions of yesterday. I do not believe the Oklahoma City Thunder are as good right now as they were entering last year's playoffs. To me, the losses of Reggie Jackson's talent, number one, and Kendrick Perkins, as you talked about, his backbone, his toughness, his presence, his leadership, are big losses. I think they're bigger than you're giving them credit for as they go into this year's playoffs, when both those players will be, I think, sorely missed. And Stephen A., you mentioned about Reggie Jackson became a disgruntled player. Why? Because the Oklahoma City Thunder would not pay him what he is worth. I'm a big fan of Reggie Jackson. I know he hasn't played much defense, but trust me, as a Spurs supporter, he kills the Spurs. And in a lot of big games, he can be an explosive, scary scorer who can come in and change games. Do you remember Game 4 last year at Memphis, Stephen A., when Oklahoma City was teetering in the first round of the playoffs down 2-1, and Kevin Durant that night shot 5 for 21. Russell Westbrook shot 6 for 24. They both had 5 turnovers, and Reggie Jackson shot Memphis right in the heart. 32 points, scored 8 in overtime as the Thunder survived in overtime only because of that guy who can do that kind of thing on that kind of night. So here we go again. I'm not saying Reggie is James Harden, God forbid, but I am saying this is similar to what they did to James Harden, Stephen A. How in the name of all that's holy in my hometown of Oklahoma City, in the name of Will Rogers, if you will, how could they have traded James Harden just because they didn't want to pay the luxury tax they would have had to pay? I still can't get over that one, and to a lesser degree, I can't get over why they wouldn't pay Reggie Jackson to be their third best player on this team. And I know Ibaka can do some good things, but nobody could come off the bench and score the way Reggie Jackson can score. So, to me, all those 4 guys you mentioned, they're all nice players. Cantor could turn into a very nice player because he's only 22 years old and was the 3rd pick in the draft. But seriously, will he have the impact ever that Reggie Jackson has already had on this team? I don't think so. So going forward, I think they hurt themselves as they try to blend in 4 new players down the stretch. Will they click? Will the chemistry work? Will they gel? I don't know. And they will miss Kendrick Perkins.
Well, I think they'll miss Kendrick Perkins, but at the same time, I think Sam Presti needs to be given a boatload of credit because he continues to stockpile players who can play this game of basketball. I mean, listen, the bottom line is Eric Cantor can play a little bit. DJ Augustin has proven that he can play. Steve Novak can shoot the basketball. Kyle Singlet can play, plus he can shoot. I mean, you might sit there and say you sacrificed a little bit of toughness, but at the same time, when you see the kind of things that are transpiring in the Western Conference, how tough do you really have to be to go against Houston, for example, against Portland, for example? You may need to be you might have to have some intestinal fortitude and some toughness when it comes to going up against a team like San Antonio who simply knows how to play. But isn't Golden State a finesse team as well, especially without Andrew Bogut? So all of those things being considered, I definitely think that, you're not steering in the wrong direction by going this route. The key to me is, again, you've lost some toughness in Kendrick Perkins, but if you're sacrificing that because you think you need more offense from that position, I can't knock Sam Presti and those boys for thinking that.
Okay, but you keep avoiding Reggie Jackson. Are you not a Reggie Jackson fan? You don't think he could turn into a star in Detroit?
I think Reggie Jackson could play. The problem is that he was dissatisfied because he was a backup to Russell Westbrook. And that's what this really comes down to. That wasn't going to work for you. He wanted to go someplace else. It was similar to Goran Dragic, which we will touch on a little bit later on in the show. He wanted to go someplace where it's his team. He's the guy. That's what he wanted. That wasn't going to happen in Oklahoma City.
I think he just wanted his money that he had earned, and they were not going to pay him. I think he could have found his role if they just would have taken care of him.
Listen.
But they don't do that, even though it still looks like they're going to have to pay some luxury tax to add these 4 players in place of the 2.
It's a mistake for you to compare Reggie Jackson to James Harden. A legitimate argument could be made that Russell Westbrook could be on the floor at the same time with a James Harden, with a Kevin Durant. Russell Westbrook, Reggie Jackson is his backup. The fact is, that's the way it was going to be, and that's the way it was going to stay. And for the money that Reggie Jackson wants and is pursuing, you're not going to get that in Oklahoma City playing the role they need him to play.
I disagree with you, and we'll see how this is going forward, but I think he'll turn into a big star, and I think you'll look back and say the Thunder missed him as they enter into these playoffs.
Okay.